Hello, classmates and Dr. Crows. This is Nicole Dalton, and in my MPA 520, week number 4, we'll be continuing our crisis leadership scenario. And my crisis is going to be based off of the city of Rancho Cucamonga and if a fire broke out in the community, and specifically how the city manager would respond to this crisis and what leadership skills he would need to use. This is going to be a high-level overview of my crisis situation. In the first 3 minutes, the city manager is going to need to decide if the EOC is going to be activated. And in the first 3 hours, the EOC responders are going to need to get settled into their roles and provide the city manager with critical updates. In day 3, the city of Rancho Cucamonga is going to be reaching out to the Red Cross and setting up evacuation centers for the community. And in the first 3 months, the fire in the crisis is going to subside, but that's going to begin a recovery stage of getting the community back to where it was. Before I get into all of the chapters, a little housekeeping. All of my resources and journals that I found are going to be located at the bottom, so it's easy to follow along as I go through my presentation. For chapter 1, I decided to use the concept of organizational alignment, and this is going to happen before the crisis even occurs. And organizational alignment is going to have the city manager create a shared common vision and goal of the organization. The culture is the soul of each organization, and one study showed that the culture of an organization is more prevalent in smaller, more rural municipalities as opposed to larger cities. And so that's going to prove challenging for our city manager. He's really going to need to do that groundwork to establish that in the city of Rancho Cucamonga. And having that shared vision throughout the organization will make our staff more committed to the success. So then when crisis does occur, they're more equipped to be able to handle that crisis situation. Chapter 2's concept is servant leadership. And servant leadership is going to be the city manager putting others before himself and really utilizing his tools to see how he can help both his community and his staff members. And I'm really going to see that happening probably throughout the entire crisis, but definitely in month 3 when you're getting into that recovery stage. And probably most of the staff is going to be tired, so he's going to figure out what he can do to help them, as well as the community. They're going to be torn up and really hurt by this situation, so he's going to need to bring in that servant leadership to help rebuild the community as a whole. And what I found interesting was that a journal that I found stated that women city managers are more likely to hold those servant leadership values, incorporating citizen input and trying to get the community involved. And I just found that interesting because my city manager at the city of Rancho Cucamonga completely puts the community first and is always worried about collaborating with the community and making them a part of our decision-making process in the city. Chapter 3 covers transactional leadership, and I see that transactional leadership happening at the very beginning of when a staff member is brought on to the city of Rancho Cucamonga. They're getting hired to do a job and they expect to get financially reimbursed for their work. And one study that I found says that although transactional leadership and what they're getting for their job is important, what people found more important to them was if their senior managers have transformational leadership skills, and that's going to make them stay committed to the organization. So transactional leadership may bring them to the organization, but that may not necessarily mean why they stay. Chapter 4 covers transformational leadership. And a transformational leader is going to want to build up their staff and help them give the tools to start working on their own leadership skills. And in the article that I found that more transformational leaderships within an organization creates a more innovative workplace as a whole. So I think this is really important because when you cultivate innovation within an organization, people are going to start feeling empowered to make different ways of doing things and how to accomplish a situation. So for this scenario, I think that transformational leadership needs to be established from the very beginning. So then when the crisis does occur, staff feel empowered to do the right thing and know that their higher managers are going to trust their judgment and what decisions are going to be made are going to be correct for this crisis. Chapter 5 covers a self-leader, and that's an individual who is self-confident in their beliefs, attitudes, and behavior. And I see this person as being very self-motivated. And I like this concept because when somebody's self-motivated and confident in the decisions that they make, others are more likely to follow that and want to be like that leader. And when I was going through my journal, it basically said that this self-leadership is not a quality that you have to be born with. This is something that you can work on and hone your skills throughout your career. And I also like that this can happen in all aspects of your life, being more self-confident as a manager in your personal life, whatever it may be. And having a self-leader in this crisis scenario is going to be super important because you're going to need to have the city manager be confident in the decisions they're making and know what they're doing is the right decision for their community and staff as a whole. Because if the leader isn't confident in their decisions, then it's not going to be successful for the seeing through this crisis. Next is ethical leadership. And if the city manager doesn't have ethical values, it's going to be really hard for them to build trust with both their organization and the community as a whole. If they're not making ethical decisions, nobody's going to want to follow them. And especially in this crisis scenario, you're going to need to establish a good relationship with your staff members to make them dedicated to the organization and see the overall success and get the community and the city through this crisis situation. The concept that stood out to me for Chapter 7 was diversity in management. Being in a city manager role in a situation like this, you're going to be dealing with all different walks of life, both with your staff and with the community that you're serving. And so it's going to be really important for the city manager to be able to accept for people for who they are and where they come from and be able to be like a chameleon and be able to adjust to the different types of personalities that they're working with. Because if they're very stern and being one-sided and not being able to be flexible, it's going to be hard for individuals to feel comfortable and to build that trust and be successful in whatever job duty they're doing. So it's critical for a city manager in a crisis situation to take that into account, and that's going to make them more successful when they're trying to navigate this situation. The final concept is competent leadership. And sometimes when you're a leader, you don't always have to know every little thing about a job duty because you hire staff who has the skills and knowledge to be able to do that, and they are the subject matter experts in different areas of the organization. But in a crisis situation like this, you are going to need to have a confident leader who is the city manager because you're going to be dealing with a lot of different things within this crisis situation. You're going to be dealing with finances and making sure that the budget isn't being extremely impacted or making the most out of what you do have. And then also legality issues when it comes to things like this. And so you're going to need a city manager who has the skills and the tools to be able to see this crisis through successfully. Thank you for listening to my presentation, and I hope you all have a great weekend.